Hello everybody, welcome back to C&S Corvettes in beautiful sunny Sarasota, Florida. It's your Corvette buddy Lyle here to talk to you about more interesting, exciting, and hopefully helpful Corvette stuff. Today we are going to cover a brief overview of the C4 run of Corvettes, talk a little bit about each year, and discuss what those cars are doing price-wise currently. The C4 Corvette doesn't get a lot of love in many Corvette circles today, although it was a very long run of cars and they changed a lot over the period of time that they were being produced, and a lot of the advances that were made in their construction and design helped lead us to the Corvettes that we have today. So, while they may not be the most desirable Corvettes in the world, there are a whole bunch of them out there, and most of them are well within reach of just about anybody price-wise. Let's start at the beginning. Corvette was introduced in 1984. As you are probably aware, it was meant to be introduced in 1983, but they had some additional work to do before the car was ready to go, so they actually came out as a 1984, thus there was no 1983 Corvette. The 84 Corvette had the Crossfire injection V8, a slightly massaged version of the same engine that was in the 1982 Corvette, and it was an okay engine, but in our experience, they either ran fantastic or they ran horrible. There was no real middle ground with them. The suspension was developed on the track, so it was quite punishing on especially like city street roads that had potholes. It would just shake your fillings loose. But it is the first of its generation, and there were a lot of 84 only bits on the car that do make it a bit unique. Those cars go for anywhere between, now, as all the prices we're going to talk about here, this is for a slightly below average to slightly above average, a very clean car. One of one's celebrity owned cars, 900 original mile cars are not in this price range. This is kind of the average window. You can buy a 1984 Corvette pretty much anywhere from $6,700 to $14,000 for a really, really, really nice one. One of the things that made the 84 unique was that the 4+3 Doug Nash transmission had a switch, an overdrive switch, that you would then, when you were shifting, you'd switch it into overdrive and get the other three gears. That switch was actually on the shifter console in 84 and into early 85. So you would actually take your hand off the shifter to hit the switch and then put your hand back on the shifter to keep shifting. They changed that in 1985, which moves us obviously onto the 1985, where they introduced the L98, also known as the TPI, Tune Port Injection engine. That engine was a very, very torquey, had very good low end, was a great engine for getting off the line and having fun driving from 0 to the speed limit over and over and over again. The Doug Nash 4+3 transmission switch moved to the shifter button, so that actually the button that had the shift pattern on it, you would just hit that to go to overdrive, made it a lot easier to use. The 85 also, they had redesigned some of the suspension and softened it just a little bit so that it was a little less punishing to drive. Those cars in nice condition run anywhere from $9,000 to $15,000, although you can find rougher examples for $3,000 to $4,000 all day long. In 1986, Corvette brought back the Convertible, which hadn't been seen since 1975. As you can imagine, a lot of people were very, very excited about that, and they sold quite well. Really not much else changed about the car from 85, but base price on a 86 today is probably, for a decent car, is going to be around $9,000 up to $15,000. The convertibles bring a slight premium at $10,000 to $17,000. Again, if you have one of these cars, they're perfectly good cars. You just have to maintain them. And the difficulty with that is, as the electronics age and become 40 years old or more, it becomes difficult to find components to fix them properly. 1987, other than a couple of small changes like the wheel centers were painted dark gray instead of black, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It was just kind of another year of carryover the 86. In 1988, we had the 35th anniversary edition, which was the white on white coupe. There were 2,050 of them made, and at that time, that was probably the coolest C4 that had been made, because it had white wheels, white everything. It was really, really, really beautiful. It was also the year that they went to the 17-inch wheels for the Z51 package, and the Z51 package only being available on manual coupes. The 88 35th anniversary car, the white ones, bring $12,000 to $20,000 depending on condition, and just a nice clean 88 average car is going to be somewhere between $10,000 and $17,000. 1989, we had the introduction of the ZF 6-speed manual transmission, getting rid of the Doug Nash 4+3. The crazy thing about the 4+3 was that it wasn't really one transmission, it was two transmissions. It was basically a 4-speed manual with a 2-speed power glide automatic mated to the back of it. It was, I think a kind word would be ingenious, but it didn't work all that great for the normal driver. There are people out there who absolutely loved them, but by and large, the public had told GM that they really just wanted a standard, multiple gear, not having to push any buttons transmission, so they picked the ZF German unit. 1989s bring anywhere from 11.5 to 16.9 in nice condition. Again, you can find them for a whole lot more and a whole lot less, depending on the condition of the car. 1990, another year of big changes with what we call the fighter jet interior. Instead of the very flat, very black plastic dash that the 84 through 89 had, the 90 had what very much looked like a aircraft cockpit fuselage for the driver. And this is one of those interiors where the passenger was really kind of an afterthought. Like the dash almost formed a wall coming down between you, and the passenger was just along for the ride. This was all about driver focus. I really loved this interior. I enjoyed it. I thought it made the car feel really special. Another big thing that happened in 1990, of course, is GM introduced the ZR1 Corvette. 375 horsepower, 32 valve, dual overhead cam, exotic European style engine, designed by Lotus and built by Mercury Marine. 1990s, 9 to 18 grand for a nice one. For the ZR1 for a 1990, anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000, depending on a lot of different variables. But 1990 was a big year for Corvette. A lot of big changes. For 1991, all Corvettes received the new ZR1 inspired exterior, which was great for base Corvette, but really not great for the ZR1, because unless you really knew what you were looking at, if you put a ZR1 and a regular Corvette, 1991, 100 feet apart in a parking lot, and they were both red, only a handful of people who knew what they were looking at would be able to tell the difference. A 91 Corvette today, anywhere from $8,000 to $18,000. You can figure on adding $2,000 to $3,000 for a convertible version. Moving on to 1992, the LT1 engine was introduced, producing 300 horses. The LT1 was less grunty on the low end, but had a better top end performance, top speed. The LT1 just sat in the engine compartment like a jewel in a setting. It was very smooth. It was very, very sleek. The downside to the LT1 was that it was running the OptiSpark distributor. And that was that laser-driven distributor that the only thing that could kill it was water. And GM decided to mount it directly under and behind the water pump. And that is, to this day, the real Achilles heel of the LT1. Very few other problems with that engine other than the OptiSpark being problematic and fragile. A 1992 Corvette today will bring anywhere from $7,500 to $15,000. Very solid cars, but nothing terribly special about 92 outside of just having the LT1 introduced. 1993 brought us the 40th anniversary edition, which was painted in ruby red with ruby red leather interior. And if you had a convertible, you also got a ruby red soft top. Even had ruby red wheel center caps. My very first Corvette was a 1993 40th anniversary 6-speed ruby red convertible. And I loved that car. I was so very proud of that car. Sometime I will have to tell you the story of my first drive home when I bought that car, but that's a story for another time. The anniversary editions, other than that, nothing changed for 1993 other than the ZR1 getting bumped up to 405 horses, which at that time was a huge number. Prices for a regular 1993 Corvette today run from anywhere from $8,600 up to $15,000. The 40th anniversary editions do carry a pretty serious premium. $13,500 to $17,500 is where you're going to find those in nice condition. Pristine ones will bring more than 20 grand. And of course, the 1993 ZR1 with the horsepower bump does get a premium bump to $25,000 to $35,000, but the very best are bringing still close to $50,000, if you can believe that. 1994 carried over all the engines. Nothing else really changed except they got a revised dash, which, while it still had kind of the fighter jet cockpit, they went to a one-piece vinyl dash that was kind of smoothed out a little bit, looked a little more like the Camaro dash, which wasn't necessarily a good thing. They changed up the door panel design and made the seating a little more forgiving for, say, bigger folks. And they knew who was buying these cars, and it was older dudes who weren't necessarily very narrow of waist. So the 94 through 96 cars had seats that were a little more soft and forgiving. 1994s bring anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000. You can kind of see a trend here in the pricing that somewhere between $7,000 and $15,000, $8,000 and $15,000 is where these cars sell today, and it's been that way for quite a while. I don't foresee them ever going up in value, at least not in the foreseeable future, but the good news is I don't see them dropping off a great deal either. 1995 brought us the Indianapolis Pace car, a limited production convertible. Those cars bring $18,000 to $28,000 depending on condition. 1995 was also the very last year of the ZR1. The 1995 ZR1 brings $30,000 to $50,000 in nice condition, and a regular 95 Cooper convertible, again, we're back to $8,000 to $15,000. Finishing up with the C4 run, we've got the 1996, and there was no ZR1, so to bid the C4 run adieu, GM came out with a couple of special editions to celebrate everything they had accomplished in the 12 years that this car had been produced. They introduced the collector's edition, which was this beautiful silver color, had the 5-spoke ZR1 style wheels on it, and could be had with the LT4 engine, which was a hot-rodded version of the LT1, producing on paper 330 horses, but it was not uncommon for them to make more or even considerably more power from the factory. You could only get the LT4 with a manual, although evidently at least one car was made by GM that had the LT4 and had an automatic. Collector's edition cars bring anywhere from $17,000 to $19,000 today. The base 1996 Corvettes, anywhere from 12 to 20 in nice condition. And of course, that brings us to the most special C4 ever built, in my personal opinion, the 1996 Grand Sport. Absolutely iconic paint scheme, the wide wheels, the presence of that car. I don't care who you are or where you are. If you see a 96 Grand Sport, you know exactly what you're looking at. I particularly love it with the red interior, which just set everything else off on that car. It featured the LT4 engine, and the coupes actually had little eyebrows over the rear wheels because they had much wider wheels and tires, almost ZR1 level, and they had to put something on the bodywork so that the wheels didn't stick out like that far and look silly. Grand Sports still hold their value really, really well. $30,000 to $40,000 for nice examples. Pristine examples can bring well north of $50,000 yet today, especially the convertibles, which were very rare. So that is the overview of C4 going from 84 through 96. Now I'm going to give you quickly my top 3 picks out of that run. If I was forced to own a C4 and somebody bought it for me, I would ask for one of the following. I would either have a 1991 6-speed manual coupe, definitely a 96 Grand Sport, 100%. And I think if I really wanted to get froggy, I think a 1995 ZR1. 1995 Corvette was actually the best rated in overall initial quality of any Corvette ever made. And they've held their value a little bit better than just about any other C4 that wasn't a special edition. So those would be my personal choices. What would you choose? Or tell me about the C4 you got or your history of owning C4s in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you think some of my information here is correct or incorrect, please let me know below and we can have a discussion about it online. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.